What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fence. I am your host, Aaron, and today's album has been a very long time coming. We are going to be checking out Whitechapel's The Valley. Whitechapel is a deathcore band that started around 2006. They're from Knoxville, Tennessee, and this is their 7th studio album. Random fact, the band is actually named after the Whitechapel district in East London, which is also referencing to Jack Ripper's murders, which is basically as death metal as you could possibly get. And I've always kind of felt like Whitechapel has always been on a not really higher level of music, but a more respectable level of music, I think. And I'd be willing to say that this album is their masterpiece album. It is brutal, it's dark, it's got haunting, eerie riffs. It's just, it's a masterpiece. It was really hard for me to pick a favorite song on this album because honestly, I liked them all. There wasn't really a song I disliked, but the one that stuck out to me the most was probably Blackbear. It's got a badass eerie riff, it's got really good vocals and lyrics, and it's got a really good hook. Even though this album doesn't have a whole lot of diversity in terms of riffs and tones, it still keeps you entertained from start to finish. I think a lot of it also has to do with Alex Rudinger. I think I might be saying that wrong, but Alex has some amazingly ferocious drum work throughout this entire album, and it is extremely apparent on Blackbear. It even contributes to the eeriness on songs like Brimstone, which is without a doubt 100% built for moshing. And the vocal work from Phil Bozeman demonstrates why he is one of the best frontmen the genre has ever seen. Not only can he hit just insanely low bassy tones and his distorted vocals are just insanely deep, but his clean singing on this album is equally as impressive. On songs like Hickory Creek and Third Depth, where he does clean singing and distorted vocals, it just, again, just demonstrates just how phenomenal he is as a vocalist. And it kind of reminds me of something that Corey Taylor would do on Stone Sour or something. And when you mix those songs with the other brutal songs like Forgiveness is Weakness, it just creates so many hills and valleys. Probably the only thing I didn't like about this album would be the fact that, like I said earlier, it doesn't have a whole lot of diversity in terms of riffs and tones, and it could be kind of tiring to listen to the whole thing all the way through. Even though it isn't as bad as some other albums, especially in this genre, it still is very doable. But at the same time, I wouldn't say every song sounds the same, but they all kind of almost sound the same. And the subject matter of this album is pretty deep and dark, and that doesn't really make it good for easy listening either. Like, I guess it kind of helps that the distorted vocals are really hard to understand. But if you're like really going to get in this album and you want to sing along to it or you want to know what it's about, it kind of might ruin it a little bit on just like having it play in the background while you're playing a video game or something. The Valley is a reference for Phil Bozeman's childhood, where he grew up with a mom who was schizophrenic and addicted to drugs, and a stepfather who is very physically abusive and was an enabler for his mom. The song Forgiveness is Weakness is basically a song celebrating the death of his stepdad. The song Third Step mentions how he used to have dreams about killing his stepdad, but at the same time he's very aware that this is unhealthy, and he even mentions that he's unstable in the song. And even though this is very deep and it's very dark and kind of twisted in a way, there are other songs and albums out there that are way worse and way more twisted and not nearly as good. The music in this is absolutely superb, and again, the vocals are great, and the lyrics, again, are brutal, but they're still very well written. And even though the riffs aren't all that diverse throughout the entire album, overall, I still found them to be pretty creative, inspiring, and at the same time, better than most other music in this genre. And even though the subject matter of this album is very heavy, at the same time, it does tell a good story about how his childhood was very rough, and he kind of goes through facing those inner demons. And it's still, at the first half of it, I felt like this album was just going to be full of anger and hatred, but then it starts to transition a little bit. And even in the song Loveless, he starts to talk about how he wishes his parents were there for him and how much he needed his parents to be there for him when he was growing up. And you get this sense of vulnerability from him. Like, the album starts out just very angry and full of hatred, and it's just all about moshing and throwing your fist around and celebrating the death of his stepdad. And it's forgiveness is weakness is very brutal. It's literally just celebrating the death of someone. Like, thank God he's dead. And then it goes into, like I said, he kind of becomes more self-aware. He starts to realize that it isn't healthy and how he's unstable. And then it goes into, like I said, about how he realizes how much he really needed his parents when he was growing up. And it's kind of like he ends up facing his inner demons and eventually finding peace, or at least he's on the way to getting that kind of peace and getting this bitterness out of him. And I read an interview how he said that this is the best kind of therapy that's worked for him so far. And he's had people reach out saying that this album has helped them face the things that they had to go through as kids too, which I think is super cool. Now, when it came to rating this album, I had a really hard time because it is a masterpiece of an album. It is, as far as deathcore is concerned, it doesn't, this is the cream of the crop. It doesn't get any better. This is above almost everything else in the entire genre. I think I might like See a Tragic Beast from Fit for an Autopsy just a little bit more. And the only reason why is because the replayability factor for me just isn't really there on the Valley. And I think that's because the subject matter. It's really cool that he's able to get this all out in the open, and he's able to speak freely and vent and get this off of his chest and even help people who went through something like this. But for me, it's just a little bit too heavy. And again, it's a masterpiece, but I'm going to give this one a 7.8 out of 10. I tried to listen to a couple of the songs multiple times. I think I listened to Doom Woods a couple times. I really enjoyed that one. But as far as an album is concerned, an overall album, as opposed to just one or two songs, I couldn't do it. I couldn't continually just listen to them over and over again. It was too much for me. But I want to know what you guys think. If you've heard this album before, what would you rate it? If you haven't, go ahead and give it a listen if you feel like it's something you're interested in, and leave a comment below letting me know what your thoughts are. What would you rate it? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified. That way you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. I was